Hi guys, it's Jaren back with another crafting video, and today I wanted to talk to you about the Phaenna EX Plus timed missions, the 4-hour timed missions. There seems to be a lot of information online saying that this mission can't be macroed. It's very much RNG. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, and it's just very difficult to do. You just have to stick with it, and it can't be macroed, so don't even try. But I wanted to challenge myself and see if I can come up with a rotation to go ahead and get it to work. Can't find anything online that says it can be macroed, so I said, you know what, let's give it a shot, let's try it. And I think it came up with a pretty good rotation. Now, first thing I want to do is I want to show you my gear and my melds. And I kind of do my own thing when it comes to my gear and my melds. I don't follow online guides or any kind of crafting discords or anything like that about what is currently best in slot and what's optimal. I just meld my gear based on what I'm trying to accomplish, what my goals are going to be. And thinking that way, knowing these missions that I wanted to do, I went ahead and melded a lot of control and CP. I see a lot of people melding craftsmanship, following some online guides that craftsmanship is required. Personally, in my own opinion, I don't think so. Not as much as you would think. So the first thing let's look at is my main hand tool. Of course, I'm using the fully upgraded Stellar Relic tool for the bonus to the good status, the 1.75 times increase. Now my melds on my gear, like I said, are all control and CP. Even on the head and the body and the hands. A lot of people think that the CP melds on these three pieces aren't quite worth it because it's only +1 and +2 CP on these pieces. But when you total all three together, it comes to 5 CP. And 5 CP is quite substantial. It's a lot to be giving up. In fact, across all of my gear, I cap CP on every single piece that I'm wearing. So I have the maximum amount of CP possible, which really helps me. So let's take a look at the legs. The legs, again, are capped with CP +12. I see a lot of people only putting the +11s on there, but I prefer that extra CP. That's just the way I like to do things. Same thing with the feet. The offhand tool, again, control and CP. The earrings, the necklace, and the bracelet are all control and CP. And the rings are a little bit different because I did want to meld some craftsmanship just to kind of keep it balanced out with all of the control that I'm using. So in the guaranteed slot of my rings, I put a control meld, and then I over melded craftsmanship in the following 3 slots. And then in the final slot, of course, I capped CP because it's just probably the most important stat that you could have as a crafter. So let's go ahead and take a look at the actual rotation itself. I came up with the macro. Now this is a 4-part macro. It's four individual steps along the way. And between macros 3 and 4, I put a little pause here with an echo line. Now the echo line at the end of macro 3, which is right here, says we need 62 CP in order to run macro number 4, which we will. I built the rotation to go ahead and make sure that we had 62 CP left over. It says we need 15 durability, which again, we will, because the rotation was built knowing that I needed 15 durability in order to run macro number 4. And the interesting part is going to be the quality section. It says we need 24,480 quality in order to 100% this rotation with finishing it with macro number 4. Now when I did the math and I added up all of the touches, and I've practiced this a few times and I've run the numbers and run the calculations, if all of my touches along the way, if all of them were on good status, it would come to 22,867. Well, that's just not enough. We need 24,480 according to this echo line. So we're 1,613 qualities short of getting 100% on this craft. And unfortunately, this is the expert craft that requires you to have 100% quality. But here's the thing. This is an expert craft, which means we're going to have status effects along the way like malleable, pliant, sturdy, primed. We're going to have good omen, which gives us the good status directly after it. And we could also get a normal good along the way without good omen. So there's multiple ways of getting the good status. So what we're doing is we're not going to focus so much on the status effects manually, is we're going to run the macro and we're going to let the macro consume those status effects along the way. And before we get to macro 4, we're going to look what we have left over. Maybe we have a bunch of CP left over because we got a bunch of pliance along the way. Or maybe we have a bunch of durability because we got a bunch of sturdy procs along the way. And if we have a lot of CP, maybe we could use a trained finesse to try to push us over this 24,480 requirement. If we have a lot of durability, but not so much CP, maybe we could use some hasty touches. Maybe we can use like the hasty touch, darling touch if we have to, in order to get to this 24,480. And we may not need to do any of that. We may not need to do any touches at all because we may get some goods along the way. Because there's that good omen with the good right after it, and there's the original good that we could also get as well. So we may be over that 24,480 requirement by the time we get to this point. And if we have all three of these requirements met, the 62 CP, 15 durability, and 24,480 quality, then we can run macro number 4, which is a great strides, quick innovation, buyer God's blessing, and then we'll finish out the craft with the heart and soul and intensive synthesis. So let's go ahead and buff up. The food we're going to be using is the Ali Pebre, of course, the new food with the maximum CP and control on it. And as always, the Cunning Craftsman Tisane. And make sure you have enough crafters delineations as well, because these are specialist rotations. You will need your soul crystal and your crafters delineations. So I think we're in the time frame for carpenter. So let's give it a shot. We'll go ahead and craft the first part, and we'll follow along with the rotation. Here's macro number 1. Reflect, delicate synth, innovation, and then a prudent touch, and then a basic standard advanced touch combo. See, we're getting good procs along the way. This is how this craft works. This is great. Immaculate Mend. And then we're going to do another innovation for another prudent touch. And then a basic standard advanced touch combo to finish out macro number 1. Okay. Macro number 2, we're going to do an innovation. And then we're going to do an observe advanced touch combo. And we're going to do another one. Another observe advanced touch combo. Immaculate Mend. And then a trained perfection with our buffs. Great stride and innovation for a big preparatory touch. Okay. Then a prudent touch. Now we're going to do another observe advanced touch combo. All right, macro number 3. Now we're going to do an innovation and then a basic standard advanced touch combo. All right, let's take a look at our echo line. It says we need 62 CP, which we have exactly 62. That's the way I built the rotation. So we didn't get any pliance along the way. So luckily we had some goods along the way, which was nice. We need 15 durability. We have 20, which is great. And we need 24,480 quality. And we've got 25,060. So we're in good shape, guys. We're good to run macro number 4. So macro number 4, great strides, quick innovation, Buyer God's blessing, and then a heart and soul and an intensive synthesis to finish out the craft. And there we go. Not too bad, right? Now let's finish out the mission with the final item. And this is a pretty simple macro. This one's not too tough at all. This is a 7,400 progress and a 19,400 quality. So have a rotation here. I think there's different ways of doing this one. There's a few different ways you can build this particular rotation. But this is just the way that I decided to build this one. So here we go. Start with a reflect, a delicate synth, an innovation with another delicate synth, and then a basic standard advanced touch combo. Immaculate Mend, Trained Perfection, and then Great Strides Innovation with a big preparatory touch. Then a Prudent Touch. Now we're going to do Great Strides with another preparatory touch since we already have one stack of innovation left over. Then we're going to do Great Strides Innovation again with another preparatory touch. And then a basic touch, which probably isn't needed, but I put it in there anyway. Great Strides, Buyer God's blessing to finish it out. We're going to Immaculate Mend. Put up Veneration, and then Heart and Soul for a big intensive synthesis. And 3 groundworks. 1, 2, and 3. There you go, guys. So despite what you may have seen online, despite some guides that are out there and some discords that saying this craft is not macroable, you have to play with all of your actions along the way in order to do it. Not so much. Is there some RNG involved? Of course. It is an expert craft and you have to get some goods along the way. You have to get some pliance. If you don't get any goods, then you need some pliance and some sturdies so you have some CP left over. If you don't get any pliance or sturdies, then you want to get some goods like we just had so we don't have to worry about it. And you can see we get 180 Explorer tokens. And how much class points did we get? And 1,600 class points for Carpenter. So it is macroable. You do have to get at least 1 or 2 steps to go your way throughout the macro along the way in order to get to that point at the end where you can run macro number 4. But it is macroable. I just showed you that it can be done despite what you may have seen online. There you go, guys. I'll show you the rotations one more time real quick. Here's macro number 1, macro number 2, macro number 3, and then remember this is where you pause to do that manual touch if you need to. We didn't have to on the example I just gave you, but if we did, we could use a hasty touch or a trained finesse or whatever we needed to do in order to get to that 24,480 mark. And then macro number 4. And then for the final item, the final product, this is the first part of the macro. And again, there's I'm pretty sure there's multiple ways of doing this final product. The 7400 and the 19,400 is not too difficult. So I think there's numerous ways to build a rotation for this. This is just the example that I decided to post. And there you go, guys. Hopefully this helps you guys gold star that mission. If you get unlucky and you don't get that 29,700 on that first macro attempt, it gives you 2 items too. So you can just run it again and give it a shot. And before you know it, you'll have your 1,600 tokens, and you can keep knocking these out for any crafter that you have a specialist for. So I hope that helped, guys. Have a great night and happy crafting.